Well, welcome to another edition of Distilling Greatness. My name is Kris Tatum with Company Distilling, and sitting to my right, as you'll see, is my great friend, partner, fellow founder, master distiller of Company Distilling, Jeff Arnett.
Yes.
How's it
I
going,
think
man?
Actually, from their perspective, I'm on your left, but
good point. Good point. I mean, I didn't put my hand up with the L, and so,
No, it's good to be back with you.
It's great, man. We've had
and
a
to be
heck of
here
a time.
lovely in Franklin, Tennessee.
Oh, hell yeah.
Beautiful town.
It's fantastic. It's awesome. We're recording inside the Franklin Theater, the historic Franklin Theater, and we've got a couple of great guests with us. You and I, Jeff, we've known him for a while, especially Lee. So we'll introduce Lee Kennedy. He's president and founder of Leiper's Forward Distillery. Lee, how's it going?
Going well, guys. Thanks for having me today. You know, it's I've been following what you guys are doing with the podcast, and it's exciting with what's going on with company and all of that. So I'm just honored to be sitting here amongst two of the greats.
Lee's been drinking this morning.
Just a little.
So for those of you that can't tell, Lee is one of the prettiest men in the world.
No.
I tell him that all the time.
His wife is prettier. I
That's
met her.
true.
Yeah,
That's true. That's
he actually
very true.
punches above his weight when he comes to getting married.
Thank you, Jeff. I would agree with that.
But I always introduce him as that, and I think at some point he's going to be like, "You're an idiot. Like, just stop." But anyway, great to have you, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And not to say that you're not good looking, but we want to welcome Matt Maxey from the. He's director of public relations, right, with Visit Franklin.
That's right. So thank y'all for being in town. Welcome. Glad to have y'all back. And it's always a challenge when you have to stand next to Lee Kennedy and being a looks contest.
Yeah,
Trust me, I know. I hated guild meetings. I'd put him in the back.
Hey, man, my brother's the pretty one. I think I would like to think I got the brains, but I don't know.
I like it.
My brother gets that distinction too.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
about 4 years older than me and looks about 10 years younger.
He really does look younger than you.
He's like the Pat Boone in the family.
That's
you know?
right. I
He
get it.
really does. Like, I mean, straight up, he looks extremely young. So that's awesome. But so, guys, first, Jeff and I just came off a weekend of celebrations. Jeff, tell me about, let's get your reaction. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, man, about this weekend.
I think, looking at it, we felt like, hey, the smart thing to do would be to kind of do 2 days back to back. But we were coming up on the 1 year birthday parties, as far as the rebranding of what was H. Clark Distillery here in Williamson County to Company, but also the opening of Townsend. So we're like, hey, let's just choose a weekend and let's just blow it out. In hindsight, it's like, man, he left me in a heap. Probably did Kris too. But man, we had a great turnout, both at both locations, both in Townsend. Had special music and axe throwing, just kind of some fun things. We have a partnership with One Knox up in Knoxville. Had soccer players out. A chance to get jerseys signed for kids, and kind of made it a fun community event. Thompson Station overwhelmed us, because we were talking, it's kind of maybe a little bit out off the beaten path, but for a lot of people, that's its attraction, it's close to everything, but it's kind of quiet over there too. You have that beautiful Circo restaurant, great menu, wonderful food. But we had a great turnout there, had wonderful music. That's one of the things Middle Tennessee is certainly blessed with, is you don't have to look too far to find some serious music talent who can show up and play. But I was impressed. We had 3 different groups that played different types of music, but all really, really good. Just top notch. But great weekend for us.
It was great. It was the community again just came out and supported. We saw people walking down from the neighborhood, pulling their strollers and or their baskets, those beach baskets with tables. Hey, we had one group that
It was
set
like
up
a
table.
mini, it was like a mini Arrington Vineyard kind of thing going on. I've been over there before where everybody kind of pitches a blanket out and brings some food and orders cocktails, or over there, I guess the frosé things are kind of big. But it kind of had a mini Arrington Vineyard feel to it.
Absolutely. So big thanks for the people that came out for that, for in Thompson Station as well as Townsend. It was great. We really appreciate that. Staff did a great job. Definitely get a big shout out to our staff, Jess, Jenna, Hannah, the whole team. Really, but the 3 of them really exceeded, if you will, and we appreciate all the support from Visit Franklin, but then also our partners there in Blunt Partnership,
and even Lee came over and celebrated with us. We appreciate you showing up.
It was a great event. You guys pulled it off seamlessly, and it was good to see the energy there, and just it was great. It seemed like you guys were. I saw you at the end of the day, and you looked kind of worse for wear.
I was dragging a little bit.
But it was awesome.
Most definitely. So let's kick into a little bit how we kind of got to know. Talk a little bit about Lee. We've had a relationship with Lee now. Gosh, I don't know,
on 2016.
Yeah, I was going to say 6-7 years. Is that right?
Yeah, you guys were Kris, you were leading the Tennessee Distillers Guild at that time, and we got Leiper's Fork functional in April of 2016. I think I told y'all this in some previous conversations, but I probably could have saved myself a lot of money and headaches if I had joined the guild before I had a fully functioning, distilled spirits plant. I didn't do that, so I wanted to walk in the room and be able to sit down. Actually, my first meeting, I sat next to you, Jeff, and it was an intimidating experience.
Yeah, it was for me too.
Right.
Just so you know, I was looking to move somewhere else.
I'm telling you, dude, it's tough.
I want to sit. I sit beside somebody fatter and uglier than myself.
As he does now, is what it is.
but that's my first, I think, introduction to both you guys was our first Tennessee Distillers Guild meeting, and in downtown Nashville, and anyway, it was very neat to see all the distillers that. Was kind of in its infancy a little bit. I think you guys started that in 2010, somewhere around in there. But anyway, so we were a little late to the table, but we've known each other well since then.
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
I think one of the things that a lot of people probably wouldn't believe is just how much support there is among the guild members.
Absolutely.
You're competitive, you want to win.
Yeah.
But if somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, man, I'm dealing with a problem here," have you dealt with that? How'd you get through it? People will give you some sound advice and help you through. It's a gentleman's industry more than people ever would think.
I think so too. Compared to other industries I've been in a past life, the distilling industry is very friendly as far as rising tide floats all ships kind of thing, and that's definitely evident amongst the Tennessee distillers and in the guild.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you said that rising tide comment. I'll never forget the first email I ever sent out whenever I lost and drew the shortest straw to be president was one about speaking with one voice and rising tide. Yep. And man, I got so much shit about that. I mean, they gave me so much grief. Like, we going into war? It's like, it's trying to be, inspirational.
Well, actually, we were. We didn't know it all the time, but we definitely had some battles to fight. But for the betterment, I think, of the state and everybody who works inside our industry, I think we're in a much better place than we were before the guild.
100%.
Dealing with laws that were written in 1938 that were very restrictive and making it very difficult, for the incumbents, people who'd been around forever, like George Dickel and Jack Daniels. They had found a way to, kind of circumvent or work around a lot of these things because they weren't going to live or die by the laws of Tennessee. But for a small distiller, you got to build it locally first.
Absolutely.
And the more of a death grip and restrictions that they were putting on you, to stop you from doing things that were actually more responsible.
Sure, absolutely.
At times, the way you presented your brand, but they wouldn't allow it. It's like, we're trying to do the right thing here, and the laws won't even let us do it.
Right.
But having those hard conversations, but, let's just get, a shout out to the state of Tennessee because they listened to us. And to Kris's point, I think it was the fact that we said, hey, let's not squabble over the differences that we have. There's a handful of things that we all will live or die by, and let's get focused on those things and let's speak with one voice about them. And the lawmakers don't have, if we're not arguing with one another and fighting with one another in the legislative plaids, it becomes much easier for them to say, okay, it looks like everybody's in agreement. It sounds right. Let's just do it.
For sure.
Yeah. So 11, 13 different pieces of legislation that flew through.
Yeah, we were very fortunate, and again, we had a strong team. I mean, guys like you, and a lot of other guys. I mean, a lot of other guys and gals. You think about it, guys. We're in an industry that's male dominated, and we have seen collectively at this table, we've seen a big influence come from the female side of things, so to speak, and just the diversity, I think, is growing. Got a ways to go, but still growing a lot.
Sure.
And I know I'm pretty proud of that. So tell us a little bit, let's change it up a little bit. Tell us a little bit about kind of your history. How did you get into this? What made you decide to Leiper's Fork? Some cool things about
Sure.
Just kind of your time, man. Talk about Leiper's Fork.
And I get this question a lot, and I've talked about this on some other podcasts, but for some weird reason, as a teenager, 15 or 16, I had a fascination with distillation and going back to Scotland and Ireland. Initially, it was more like a cultural heritage thing that kind of drew me to that. My family's Scots-Irish, and so just that tradition that was started in Ireland and Scotland and came over to the New World with those early settlers and trickled its way over the Appalachians into Kentucky and Tennessee. And those guys didn't have their native grains from the old country, so they discovered Native American grain. in the form of corn, and started making corn-based distillate. So that initially just kind of captured my imagination and fascination to the point where I built a little still in my mom's basement when I was 16 years old out of a 5-gallon pressure cooker and some copper condensing line from Home Depot, and a 5-gallon bucket was my condenser. And learned at that time, this was in the mid kind of early 90s. There was no internet. You
couldn't Google. You didn't know about methanol and getting that shot out of there.
At that time, I didn't know the master of distiller at Jack at that time, or company now. But anyway, so I had an uncle that dabbled and kind of taught me how to do that, and then copied the Foxfire book. The first series of that volume or series of books was there's a chapter called Moonshining as a Fine Art. It's very archaic. It's written in a lot of Appalachian vernacular, so to speak. But so glean just enough information to be able to ferment and distill, small batches of I don't even know what it was back then.
Corn liquor.
Yeah, corn liquor. and didn't kill anybody or blow anything up. And so anyway, I kind of shelved that, went to college. I'm from Tennessee, but I was born in Mobile, so went down to Auburn University and went to school down there. Don't hold that against me, Jeff.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, but
anyway. roll tide over here.
I grew up a Bama fan, so that's okay. But anyway, so
that one we will.
I carried that little still down to Auburn with me and would give educational speeches and speech class and stuff, and didn't really run it. But when I moved back to Tennessee, I was in the financial services industry. But we moved to a farm here in Williamson County on 82 acres. We're very blessed to have done that in the early 2000s before property prices got crazy. So, I at that point, there were literature written on the subject. There was also the internet, which you can learn how to build a dang freaking atom bomb on YouTube now. Yeah, so anyway,
Big Brother's watching. No, I don't recommend you Google that right now.
So no, exactly. So, but anyway, kind of, and I had the mental capacity to wrap my head around, what we call kind of the it sounds crude, but hillbilly chemistry or whatever you want to call it. So, and at that point, I got really fascinated with the fact that you could take 3 inert ingredients, being grain, water, and yeast, and a contraption being a still, and make something flammable. Mm-hmm. And back in the Middle Ages, that was the realm of magic and wizardry. So that kind of captured my imagination, and I really kind of poured myself into that. And then, so obviously, we all know that the law changed with some help of some friends and forward-thinking distillers in Tennessee. And in 2009, I actually looked into creating a distillery in Williamson County in 2008. Talked to an attorney friend of mine, and he said, at this juncture, you would have to get 40% of registered voters in Williamson County to sign a petition. It would go on a referendum ballot, and then it would be voted on. And that was too daunting. So, surreptitiously, the law changed in 2009. I got contacted about that, started the process in late 2011, early 2012 with Williamson County to develop the distillery. We had to create a new law in Williamson County. So I got my building permit in 2015. Okay. So it was a 3-year process, 4 public hearings. It was, the Williamson County was actually great to work with. It was a long process, but they kind of walked me through it. They were very supportive of what we were doing. And my neighbors out in Leiper Sport, I had 30 acres of land that I bought when I was in college. My mom's side of the family, it's actually, they hail from Wilson County as well, but they've been in Leiper's Fort since about 1805.
Oh, wow.
So that's the reason, when I was graduating college, went down and bought some property there at the, recommendation of my granddad, who was born in Hillsborough. But anyway, so had the land, so it kind of made sense. That was obviously land prices in Williamson County right now. It would be very prohibitive for me to try to do what I was trying to do. So again, being blessed to have this property, and went through that process, and we started making, put our first barrel back in April of 2016, and we were distilling with no doors on our still house, and
that's awesome.
We opened our retail cabin in October of 2016, so a few months later, and man, we've had our nose to the grindstone, and ever since, yeah, trying to use traditional methods and all the rest of it, yeah.
That's fantastic. You mentioned the cabin, Jeff. What were you telling me about? You're telling me a story about.
Yeah, when I watch TV, I enjoy, craftspeople and stuff like that. And so I watched that Maine Cabin Master show and stuff like that. But I've always been, but the Barnwood Builders has always been one I really like. Those guys are just really super cool.
Awesome.
Their relationships to one another seem so, so real and everything. But I'm just kind of watching one of the shows one night, and all of a sudden it's like he's looking at a house, and they've decided it looks like sort of like this Greek revival type home. Yeah. But then they start stripping the siding off of it, and there's like massive logs under there. Yeah, you know, so they just faced this thing, and you didn't realize that it was a sort of a 1800s log cabin under there. But he's like, but he always takes a little side trip, right? Whenever, if you watch that show enough, he always goes somewhere. He ends up at your distilling. I'm like, oh my God, man, that's lit. So I'm like, that took you to a next level rock star with me. That you've been on Barnwood Builders. Yeah, you're not just pretty and making whiskey. That's pretty freaking good. But you've been on my show.
Man, we got a lot of traction out of that show. So my brother was building a cabin for them, and they were asking, is there another old log structure in the area that we can go see that's finished? And my brother said, well, actually, we got a family-owned distillery down the road. So Wes built in conjunction with a guy named Kenny Smith, a guy from down in Lawrenceburg. He's a family friend who's now passed. But anyway, that original cabin was originally built in 1820. Wow. And so Mr. Kenny and his crew moved it back, and they rebuilt it log by log. But I love those old cabins. And we still get people that see that show and come in like, there's this, there's that. So
that's awesome. That's really cool. Something I've always enjoyed about you, Lee, and your whole team is there is this, it is feel like family, whether the last name is Kennedy or not. Yeah. I always feel like family when I've come there. We've brought staff there before. Both of you have hosted, my previous staffs at a distillery and just treat us like family.
I've been there for the Bourbon Bash. Great event y'all do.
Yeah, talk about that some. That's fantastic.
And Kris, I appreciate that. Yeah, we truly are. We're a family-owned distillery. It's me and my mom and my brother and my uncle. He's our CFO. And so anyway, but whether it's guests that come, family and friends, that we want people, and our tour guides say this, we want people to come as guests and leave like they feel like family. And we try to impart that to our tour guides and the people that are, that are interacting with folks. And so anyway, I really appreciate y'all saying that. But the Bourbon Bash, we started, a lady named Pam Furr, WTN, started Bourbon Bash. And we got involved in 2016, our first year around Veterans Day. And so the Bourbon Bash has been a veterans-based charity event to where initially it was benefiting the Green Beret Foundation. Last year, we raised a lot of money for the Gary Sinise Foundation. Yep,
Lieutenant Dan.
That's right, Lieutenant Dan. Yep, great things he's doing. This year, we've actually at the distillery started our own foundation called the Freedom and Whiskey Foundation. And so we're helping retired Joint Special Operations Command guys and girls that are retiring early 40s out of Special Operations, kind of figure out what they want to do with the rest of their life. So it's a scholarship fund for these folks, as well as professional networking and entrepreneurial support. So this year we'll be benefiting the Freedom and Whiskey Foundation for these folks. We've paid for scholarships for a special operator out of some very top tier units. One of them went to over to Duke and got his master's program. We funded that. We've funded trade schools, internships. So these guys they're highly motivated. They're very intelligent. Most of them speak multiple languages, and they're retiring fully functional at, in their early 40s, and they're trying to figure out what they want to do. So we're kind of trying to be that conduit, and we've developed some connections over the Fort Bragg area. So we're helping those folks. So at the beginning of November, actually on Veterans Day, here at the factory at the Franklin, we're doing, I guess this will be our 5th or 6th annual Bourbon Bash. In support of the Freedom Whiskey Foundation. So y'all please look out for that and purchase tickets.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so and that probably couldn't be happening without the support of Visit Franklin.
Absolutely.
So Matt, that's one of the things we know that's going on in the area. What else have y'all got cooking?
Well, that's a laundry list of things that are going on. Franklin as a whole and all of Williamson County has really become a tourism destination all on its own. And just kind of the quick history there is, 20 years ago, if you said Franklin, that's a Nashville suburb. Yeah, you'd have been right. In that 20 years, just the development that has come along has really become a tourism spot all its own. We just get to borrow an international airport 30 minutes up the road, which is convenient. But it's just short of 2 million people a year coming here. Tourism is now over $1 billion industry just in Williamson County alone. I mean, folks are coming and spending $2.3 million a day in Williamson County. And a big draw for that is whiskey. So it's
it wouldn't surprise me that Franklin was kind of busy, hustle and bustle on the weekends, and that's normally when I would visit here. But yesterday I had a list of stores to visit and things like that, hands to shake. Mm-hmm. So I'd run out towards West Haven, and then we came back and came through town it was mid-afternoon on a Monday, and I was stunned at how many people were walking around town. I mean, it was busy. Yeah, it's really busy.
Ironically, I started in the tourism industry here at Visit Franklin January of 2016. So my career in tourism is about the same age as Lee's whiskey. Okay. when he started, but it's when I first started, you could see shop doors on Main Street being closed at 4:30, 5 o'clock. But additions of new hotels. There's now a fantastic hotel in downtown Franklin. People can park their car, not have to walk, and it's elbow to elbow every day. We used to have a slow period, but we're pretty much open year round and packed year round.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You've got a ton of things. You guys have been very involved. We've gotten as involved as we can be in the Thompson Station area and Franklin area. And you guys have been great supporters of the Tennessee Whiskey Trail overall, whether it's from an advertising perspective or trying to do some different events to promote distilleries. And I'll just tell you, I appreciate that, more than I can probably put into words, and I think it's important that we do have that community involvement. That's something Jeff and I and Lee and the rest of the team on the guild, we are about. We can be that bond in the community. I mean, it is. I mean, you think about it. We have agriculture, we have tourism, we have hospitality, entrepreneurship to the nth degree, if you will. So I would, you guys have definitely recognized that, you as well as other visitor organizations, and you've welcomed us, and I think that's pretty awesome. Can't complain.
Well, it's been a joy, and I've told Lee before, kind of, I was into whiskey before I started, but I feel like I really got into the industry and really a true love and desire to learn more just from getting to hang out with distillers and learn more about it, and just that Franklin being where the Whiskey Trail and the Guild launched. I mean, the factory at Franklin where Lee's event is, that's where you stood on a stage and said a word or two towards Kentucky.
And it's been a minute.
It's been a few.
It's been a minute since I was at the factory. I think it went through like an ownership change, maybe not that long ago, and it's kind of changing a little bit.
It did. It's going through a massive renovation right now, and it's a kind of, people are now saying like the Chelsea market of the South kind of feel of it. So
that's fantastic.
You walk in now, and it's the big grand lobby it's like the biggest hotel bar gathering place you've ever seen. So it's a phenomenal gathering place, and multiple music and performance venues, professional theater out there, and it's many restaurants coming. So people come by Christmas time, if they've ever been before, it'll look whole different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been. I haven't been. I guess I haven't. Well, no, I did one other event. You were there, and a couple other guys, but we did the announcing for the Tennessee Whiskey Trail, of course.
Yeah.
And then we did that other event. I think it was some sort of whiskey society event of some sort. But yeah, I haven't been in a while. But I mean, I've heard it's amazing.
Not to be kind of gloom and doom, but I was friends with Kyle Jacobs. I don't know if you knew him. He was married to Kelly Pickler, but unfortunately,
that's right.
Took his own life, sadly. But just a great guy. But there's a celebration of life ceremony that's planned for him later this month, and we're going to be coming to the factory. And he did a lot of the music production for Lee Bryce's albums, and they were very close. And Lee is going to play like a concert in honor of him. So I'm looking forward to that, to meet Lee, who I've loved his music for a while. But I'm looking forward to seeing the factory. The way it looks now. Last time I was there, it was like the Sapphire restaurant maybe was in there.
Yeah, it's now it's under a different name, Mojo's Tacos.
Yeah. Okay, all right, yeah.
Mojo's Tacos.
Yeah, when I was still with my previous employer down in Lynchburg, we had like a management committee, the people who kind of help run the facility, and a general manager, and he said, let's go and have like an evening with the spouses and just kind of hang out, but we chose that restaurant. It was good, really good.
They're doing a good job, and I would say Matt and the guys and the gals at the CVB here in Franklin, they've really treated us well, helping us get, travel writers in, putting a spotlight on the distillery. Tourism is really what's gotten us through while we've been aging our own whiskey. And so that's, people say all the time, we wish our CVB was as proactive in promoting us as you guys are helping us out, and company down in Thompson Station, same thing, so appreciate what y'all do.
You were talking about how much play you got out of being on Barnwood Builders, because it kind of gives into that like rerun loop, where it just kind of constantly plays. Well, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives does that too. And I haven't been friends with a guy for about 15 years now. He invited me up to do that 55 South segment.
Cool.
So Cork and Cow, 55 South, the McConnell House, Jason McConnell, local restaurant guy, super talented,
doing good stuff.
But yeah, so a lot of people say, I saw you on TV yesterday, and I'm like, yeah, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, right? Because you're not seeing anything else.
A lot of mileage out of that.
I got way more play out of that than I did anything I've ever done in my life.
And it's convenient. Look, it's right here next door to the Franklin Theater.
I was going to say, I saw when I pulled up there. I'm like, I've eaten there since, but I can remember the red Camaro convertible that he uses on that show being parked out there in front of 55 South the day we showed up here.
That's cool.
Pretty cool. Talking about the Franklin Theater in the downtown area, talk a little bit about the Franklin Theater, Matt. Tell us a little bit about it, but then also, what is Visit Franklin doing as an investment or community involvement, and the importance of that?
But yeah, so the Franklin Theater, as Franklin was kind of evolving as its own destination, Main Street is the biggest draw to Williamson County. It's millions of visitors per year, and the jewel of Main Street, as it's known, is the Franklin Theater. It's been here since the 1930s. Built and just was your typical movie house for the longest time. And then kind of as many movie houses experienced kind of in the late 90s, it was, downhill. The seats that we're looking at now were old couches and beanbag chairs. And a group of locals came together to save it and prevent it from becoming a CVS or like just another spot on Main Street. Put all of this work into it, millions of dollars, renovated it to 1930s style. Sound quality. Really it's acoustically perfect in here. Everything that you find at the Grand Ole Opry from a production standpoint, you find here, but it's only 300 seats. So it's known largely as the best 300 seat music venue in the world. Mm-hmm. And also kind of like the Opry, where they have their famed circle, the medallion right in front of us here. It has the letter COU engraved on it. So when an artist stands on this stage, they're looking out and they are the center of the universe. For that performance. And
it's fantastic.
The talent that comes through here, that they do movies and theatrical performances. They'll do over 500 events a year here alone. But the musicians who've been on this stage, right where Kris is sitting right now, Vince Gill was performing 2 nights ago. Tim McGraw was there 2 weeks ago.
You've downgraded, just so you know. That's awesome. That's really good stuff. So a little bit of Lee, a lot of times, and Jeff and Lee both, and I think others in our industry, and especially specifically Tennessee, they really dig into the history. But I love listening to Lee talk about the history of history of distilling in Williamson County and stuff. Tell a little bit about. Obviously your family, you said, was here since 1805.
Yeah.
So I know you've seen and you've traveled. Obviously, tell me the uniqueness of distilling in Williamson County to you.
Well, and really, Williamson County is really a microcosm of Tennessee as a whole. So, and I tell people, we tell this on our tours, until 15 years ago or so, if you thought about whiskey production anywhere in the world, you thought about Scotland, Ireland, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Now they're making great single malts in Japan, malt whiskey out in the West Coast right now. But until then, is pretty much, kind of relegated to those 4 areas. And a lot of that had to do with, obviously geological structures like limestone filtered water from back in the day, but also the type of people that were there, going back to those Scots-Irish people that brought that knowledge over here. So, if you look at, say, 1796 is when Tennessee became a state. John Overton did a census of stills for the federal government, 1796 to like the early 1800s. Davidson County, which at that time was part of Robertson County, and it was a larger geographical area, they had, I think there was about 4,000 settlers, and there were a little over 60 stills that were servicing those people and those were the legal stills that were paying taxes. So it's a pretty cool record of history. So John Overton did that for, I want to say 7 years, and you can go back and look. Andrew Jackson is listed on the census of stills, and the Boyd family, which was big in Williamson County. So kind of, as we became a state and things became settled, distilling was pretty much relegated to farming activities. So, and you know that small distilleries.
Yeah, absolutely. It was tied to an agricultural economy.
Absolutely.
Distilling was a vital skill because you had to be able to condense the value of last year's crop down to bring in the new crop.
Sure.
Right? You don't want to throw it away.
Right.
But whiskey, more compact, bartering value.
Yes.
It was like having a dollar bill in your back pocket. You could trade a jar.
As a barter society.
Yeah, absolutely. For goods and services.
And
it was like basically like currency.
Absolutely. And that kind of fascinates me even today. And I feel like we're at the end of the day, we're producing a commodity. You know, we really are. But, you know, as far as there was between 1817 and after the Civil War, spirits weren't really taxed or regulated in the U.S. So a lot of that history is like gazetteers and people like that. So in 1840, there were over 1,500 distilleries in the state of Tennessee. Williamson County had 9, and you know, they were small, you know, farm type enterprises. As the Industrial Revolution kind of kicked in, you know, you started seeing by 1896, which was Tennessee's centennial, we had 322 distilleries at that time. I want to say Kentucky had something like 800. But you know, obviously Tennessee we had our own in-state prohibition in 1910. We all know that, which, you know, we have a headline from, I can't remember what paper it is. I don't think it's the Tennessean, but it's like maybe the Nashville Gazette or something like that.
Or the Banner. I think
maybe it's the Banner.
Nashville Banner was one of them.
I think the front page of December 31st, 1909 says all distilleries and breweries in Tennessee must shut down at midnight tonight. And it lists, there were only 40 distilleries at that time. So we went from 1896 having 322. You know, that was an industrial census that was performed. Fast forwarding, those folks saw the handwriting on the wall. You know, Jack, I think, moved to St. Louis, and George Dickel went to Louisville, and you know, and Nelson Greenbrier shut down. Yeah, you know.
And right when Tennessee was, of course, Tennessee went before the rest of the country about 10 years prior to national prohibition, but Jack Daniel's opened up office in Kentucky and in Alabama, but then those states also were part of the Bible Belt. Both of them kind of voted state prohibition. Missouri didn't. So that was where that became their home from 1909 to 1919.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, and it really kind of, in Tennessee, we were different. We were very similar to Kentucky. You know, I tell people like the Middle Tennessee is almost an extension of the bluegrass of Kentucky if you really look at it from a geological standpoint, and as far as the makeup of the people and all the rest of it. But you know, we had thoroughbred racing here. We had whiskey was part of the fabric of society. You know, when Prohibition happened in 1910, and Tennessee kept it going to 1938, I think. And you know, those distillers just didn't, you know, go start gardening. They we had a lot of illegal whiskey. The legal whiskey trade here in Middle Tennessee, East Tennessee, all over was very strong. I had my granddad's uncle, a guy named Sam Locke. He was a constable here in Franklin, and he was a revenuer. He was murdered in March of 1923 by the Williamson County Whiskey Ring.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, he busted over 60 stills in a 3-month time period in early 1923. And, you know, Williamson County there was a lot of illegal whiskey being made in this county, and downtown Franklin was not as gentrified as it is now. It was pretty rough and tumble back in those days.
Man, it's like I said, just hearing you talk about this and you guys talking back and forth is awesome. I do want to correct you on something. I don't think you should ever compare anything with Tennessee and Kentucky unless it has to do with Tennessee being a hell of a lot better.
Chris is famous for his Kentucky takedown.
I have to defend myself all the time because of Chris's comments.
Yeah, you should. By God, we're better.
He came off the top rope on Kentucky.
Hey, man, get out of the way. I look at Kentucky. You know, I've visited I've traveled a lot of the world, and I look at you going back to, you know, the two places I've traveled in the world where the general population has a handle on distilling, you know, no matter who it is, it's Scotland and Kentucky. Everybody has a family member, you know, a mom or dad, a brother, sister, or something like that who works at a distillery. So, you know, there's just a pervasive knowledge, and hell, we lean on Kentucky for a lot of resources, especially when we're getting going. But I love that friendly rivalry that we've always had, and I think that's good for any kind of industry, but Tennessee and Kentucky have such a storied history with, you can almost make an argument that, most of the whiskey tradition comes between the Ohio River in northern Kentucky and the Alabama River in northern Alabama, or Tennessee River in northern Alabama. And, there's a lot of connections between that area.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And
I think one of the things we get in Tennessee, if I were in Kentucky, I wouldn't make anything but bourbon, right?
Yeah.
Because you're there.
Yeah, right.
And,
right.
You don't have to make Scotch whiskey if you're in Scotland, but you'd be stupid if you didn't.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
If you try to make gin in Scotland, why do you do that? But I think in Tennessee, we're given a little more freedom. Of course, Tennessee whiskey is a variant of bourbon, but I think there's a little bit of a license to create and go beyond. And, that was one of the things we used to laugh about with Kentucky. It's like, they've got bourbon and horses, but Tennessee's got music and, and a variety of spirits. There's, it's different.
We got a lot going
It's different here. And I think it's complementary.
It's a different
I
vibe.
think when we were creating the Tennessee Whiskey Trail, we never saw it as necessarily competing with the Bourbon Trail. It's like, but if you've already done the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, here's another option. If you enjoyed that, then here's, that was the 5K. Tennessee is the marathon because we're 660 miles and 30 stops and all of that. And the variety of spirits you're going to see across those distilleries is really broad. It's not all going to be bourbon.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's a good point. When you're looking at the two, we needed them just as much as they need us, because now we're all talking about whiskey and bourbon, and that leads to, what Visit Franklin and other CVBs in the area, kind of attaching to that whiskey tourism. What's your take on that? What do you see on that, the value? Especially, I'm sure there's a little bit of a, I don't want to say conflict, but it's probably a little challenging when you're trying to say, hey, let's bring your family in here. Now, we saw it on Saturday at Thompson Station. Families everywhere. So talk to me a little about whiskey tourism.
Whiskey tourism is incredibly important to us, and to the family aspects. On initial thought, it would be a little difficult, but the look, it's Leiper's Fork and Company, they make it so family friendly. It's a real easy transition to say, it's play in the yard, playing cornhole. There's kids activities out there, so it quickly kind of puts that to bed. But overall, whiskey tourism is huge for us. We claim to be the center point of the whiskey trail because we're in the center of the state here, and the whiskey trail folks haven't told us to stop, so I haven't.
Don't.
But staying in Franklin, you're within 2 hours of half the whiskey trail. So stay in a hotel here as your base, go out to see you guys and Leiper's Fork, and you can go see Jack and the ones in Nashville and things like that. And it's a big draw, and also, both of y'all's locations, Franklin is known for its music. Most of the names that make Nashville famous actually live here, and sort of the writers and producers, and just that's music permeates everything. And that includes, the whiskey spots. And, y'all have had great music at the Distiller there in Thompson Station. Lee, I love telling people about their still house sessions, and that they've, not many distilleries around the country, I believe, have a chandelier like y'all do next to your still house.
It's badass.
We are kind of weird.
I won't argue with that. No, that's awesome, man. It's you guys are doing all kinds of things and have been in the music. Obviously, being in Middle Tennessee, like you said, 30 minutes from Nashville. But what do you got coming up? You've got a lot of areas here in town that is kind of away from the hustle and bustle and the Lower Broad kind of feel.
It is kind of, to use a music analogy, I always kind of say Nashville is the full arena show. We're kind of more the acoustic version. It's great quality, just a little slower pace on that. But kind of music wise, the biggest thing upcoming is Pilgrimage Music and Cultural Festival. So it's tying into that, the old horse and thoroughbred industry too. There's a former horse farm in downtown Franklin called the Park at Harlansdale. Was home to Tennessee Walking Horse Grand Champion in the 40s, and every champion since then has been a product of his line. But it has now turned into a park here in town, and the former or current lead singer of Better Than Ezra, Kevin Griffin, and his partners have a festival they have modeled after the New Orleans Jazz Fest. Happens here. This will be the 9th year of it, and it's they have their partner Justin Timberlake and up and coming artist.
I don't think I've ever heard of him before.
Involvement, but it
sounds familiar. But
it's a 2-day festival. The last weekend of September this year, the Lumineers, Zach Bryan, and 50 other artists will be on 4 stages. It too is family friendly. It's kind of Bonnaroo for people who grew up and had kids. So you sleep in a hotel at night.
Bonnaroo for adults.
So there's you sleep in hotels. There's a stage for kids, but also you can experience food and merchants and artists from across the South throughout. So it's an arts and cultural festival. Plus, you get to see incredible A-list talent right here in downtown Franklin.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about all this, but I think one of the biggest things that's probably going to hit Franklin in a while, besides me and Jeff being here, is
we're going to leave our mark.
We're going to leave it right here, right around that center of the universe up there. You know what I'm saying? But tell us, Lee, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're about to see?
So we're opening a second location here in downtown Franklin. You know, we're expanding. We'll do some limited operations here. Mm-hmm. It's a 2,500 square foot space on Main Street in Franklin, and we know we'll be doing some bottling. We hope to maybe be doing some very experimental distilling. We don't know yet, but also having a cocktail experience with the expressions that we produce there. We are going to. You know, everything we do at Leiper's Fork, we do from grain to glass now. You know, we sourced a little bit of whiskey when we first started and phased that out over time. We were transparent about it, you know,
absolutely.
Completely. But one thing we will do for some of our, what we're calling kind of cocktail class of spirits is we will bring in a gin, some vodka, some things like that. But we'll be kind of intent on where we source that. So we'll go to London for our gin. We're going to source a potato vodka out of Poland. So kind of going back to these traditional areas where these places were made and sourcing them and showcasing them at this spot in downtown Franklin, along with our high-end whiskeys and things like that. Mm-hmm. So we'll also have a live music component to that. So Aubrey Preston, who's a friend who owns Fox and Lock out in Leiper's Fork, incredible little venue, Roadhouse, whatever you want to call it, where a lot of great names have gotten up. So he's going to kind of help us. We're going to have the Fox and Lock picking corner there, and he's going to help us with some talent. And it'll just be kind of a little bit of a museum we're going to showcase some of the history of Tennessee and Williamson County distilling there. And it'll just kind of be a epicenter or a showcase for Leiper's Fork in downtown Franklin, but also a showcase of what's going on across the state and some of our history.
Cool.
Very cool, man. Very cool.
Yeah, and I think I told you this before, but you know, I everybody who comes into the industry, you got to source for a time. You know, you got to do it. But when I came to your distillery, you had just come out with that bottled in bond, and when I tasted it, I knew you were off to a good start.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, it was solid.
And that coming from you, it was a lot.
I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it.
Well,
it was solid.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Well, gentlemen, I think we're being flashed red right now.
We've gone a little longer. I can keep talking another hour, guys.
This is fantastic. This has been fantastic.
So much to talk about.
We want to be appreciative and respectful of your all's time, and we do appreciate your time. Jeff and I think we're done with our travels for a little while. I got a little trip here or there.
A little bit. We are, of course, you know, I know you've got a lot going on at Leiper's Fork with Company. We've got, we've been doing a couple of experimental things too. We've done an Applewood Tennessee whiskey. We did a cherrywood finish rye whiskey. Those are going to come into the Company bottle this fall. So people who are following us, we're going to go from that one bottle that you know of us, that is the Maplewood bourbon, and add 2 more to it. So yeah, it's exciting because that was kind of the portfolio that I envisioned for us, and it's come together really, really nicely. So more good things to come. So
hell yeah, it'll be great. I really appreciate your all's time. We appreciate you guys listening and watching. Again, you get to see me and Matt, and then you get to see the beauty of the table over here.
No. Y'all are setting a high bar.
But no, seriously, appreciate you guys. Please join us next month. That'll be our 9th podcast. Can you believe that, Jeff?
It's been crazy. 9. It's flown.
It's flown by. Having a good time. So look forward to talking to you guys again in a month, and everybody have a great rest of the summer. Thanks.